So, hello. This is my presentation of learning by me, Jordan. Okay.
Hi, Jordan.
Hi. Okay, so I decided to base my presentation of learning off of one book instead of 5. So I decided to do Michael Bay, The Prisoner of Cell 25, by Richard Paul Evans, and I decided to give it my own little book rating, which was awesome. This book is it kept me entertained for a long time, and I read the whole series, although they just came out with the 4th one, so I'm excited to read it. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be basing it off. The plot itself is pretty entertaining. It's basically this dude who's pretty much an average high school student, and he has these very unique powers. He basically has electricity flowing through his hands, and he kind of slowly discovered it as his life went on. Like when there was a bully, whenever he gets really mad, it gets worse. So when he was getting bullied really bad, he ended up shocking 2 guys and throwing them against a wall. So he's really powerful. So yeah. All right. So my first artifact is learning about circuits. So this is a picture of a circuit, and we're testing the compass deflection. So, circuits. I decided I'd do a couple skills per artifact because the artifacts I chose, I tried to make very jam-packed, sort of. So, the first skill that I obtained from messing with circuits and testing them was close observation. So, in these Castle Unit worksheets, as you know, there were a lot of questions based on what will happen if we do this. So if we're not closely observing what's going on, we may miss an important thing that should go on the worksheet. So close observation was something that I definitely practiced because it was pretty necessary in order to fill out the worksheet well. And then the second skill I decided to touch on is problem solving. So that's when you initially build the circuit. I know my partner Shane and I often came into this problem where when we were initially building our circuit, our light bulbs wouldn't light. There's a couple of reasons for that, as you guys know. The wire could be bad, or the light bulb, or the batteries. So we had to kind of problem solve and figure out what we needed to do in order to basically make our light bulbs work. So we practiced a lot of problem solving because of all of those different factors. Okay, so how does this relate to my book? Before making a choice, Michael, the main character, he needed to observe the situation very closely. So the main plot is kind of his mom basically got kidnapped by these guys who actually want to capture Michael. So it's kind of they were trying to lure him in to kind of take advantage of his powers. So they decided to kidnap his mother because she was a single mom and he loved her very much, obviously. So they kidnapped his mother, and so he needed to figure out some sort of plan to basically get her back. So he needed to, he was kind of the leader in his group. So whenever he made a decision for his group, he really needed to step back and look at it closely. Second, when caught in a rough situation, Michael was forced to problem solve very often, which is kind of obvious just because whenever you're doing something very elaborate, there's always going to be something going wrong or a plot twist in the book where he needed to take advantage of his problem solving skills. Alright, so here's some pictures of our circuits. Here's some vocabulary words that you get if you guys remember or don't remember. Conductor, insulator, stuff like that that I thought I'd just put on there. And then another picture of a group working on circuits. It was Halloween. So yeah. Okay. So artifact number 2, our transportation infographic. My partners were Aaron Ginoza, Matt, Patrick, and of course me. And this is our infographic. The title kind of got in the way, but we did it on Oahu, or not Oahu, but the whole Hawaiian Island chain. And so yeah. So our transportation infographic, the skills that I thought I obtained from this were good research and combining ideas to create success. So for good research, we needed to basically research one of the 4 main topics. So we needed to make an infographic based on car, electric car, train, bus, and bike, I believe. And so there was time and speed and economy and stuff like that each person was assigned. And I was speed and time. So I needed to figure out how fast each mode of transportation was going and the average amount of time people needed to commute while using those. So good research is really vital because if we didn't get good research based on our topic, we wouldn't be able to make a very informative infographic. And then as far as combining ideas to create success, in the beginning of our infographic, one of our main challenges was we had kind of an infographic that was based on, that looked like 4 individual infographics, and we needed to somehow figure out a way to combine to make it look like one big one. Each of us we did like 4 Oahu's, and it didn't really look very together as like one infographic. So it looks very individualized as far as everybody's work. So in the end, we needed to combine all of our ideas to make it look like one nice infographic. So what we did was we decided not to do 4 Oahu's, and as you saw, we decided to do the whole island chain to make it look like a little more together. Okay, so how does this relate to my book? Well, before going after his goal, Michael needed to research in order to form a plan. So before they kind of set off on their journey to find Michael's mother, they needed to research kind of about these people called the Elgin, who were the people who wanted to capture him and kidnapped his mother. So in order to do that, Michael had a really smart friend named Austin. And he's kind of quirky but just really smart. And he's able to find a ton of information on all kinds of different stuff about the Elgin and what they had done previously, so they could work around some of Elgin's main strengths when they were forming their plan. And then when forming the actual plan with his friends, who basically volunteered to help him get his mother back, Michael needed to take ideas from the whole group in order to make it fair and successful. So what I mean by that is his friends are basically risking their lives to help him with finding his mother. So he needed to take ideas from all of them so that they were comfortable with what they were doing, since they were already making a very large sacrifice. Okay, so artifact number 3 was building catapults, and this is kind of a pixelated picture of everybody working outside. Alright, so catapults, the skills that I believe I obtained from this was applying our math work and construction. So for the first one, applying our math work, you see in a lot of standard courses that people, do their math, take their tests, and that's kind of it. But here in this project, I found myself applying a lot of the math concepts that we learned in class to our actual catapults. Stuff like figuring out, since we needed to calculate where our golf ball would land pretty much perfectly, we needed to use a bunch of equations and stuff like that in order to make that really accurate. And as far as also making the measurements and calculating kind of how we wanted to build our catapult as far as angles go, we also needed to apply math there. And then our construction skills, we kind of did this last year as well, since we were building hydroponic systems. And since some of us had already had experience with that, but we also exercised that because we were using a lot of wood and pipe and all of that good stuff to construct our catapult. Okay, so book relationship. Michael had to apply skills he obtained in his geometry class to break out of cell 25. And I thought this was really funny, actually, because in the very beginning of the book, before all of this complicated stuff happens, he talks about how much he actually really hated his geometry class and how he felt that he would never use any of the skills. But in the actual book, once they actually got into the cell 25 where his mother was being held captive, the Elgin actually locked them in so they could not get out, and he actually had to use geometry skills in order to break out of it. So it was kind of interesting how in the beginning of the book he talked about how much he hated it, but he ended up actually using it in the story. And then second, Michael and his friends had to construct a safe place they could hide out from authorities. So in the book, the kids who were basically volunteering to help Michael basically ran away from home. So they didn't even tell their parents or anything, because obviously their parents probably wouldn't let them go. So they had to basically be homeless for a little bit until they could find a plan. So they used construction in order to make a nice, somewhat safe place for them to hide out while making their plan.
You're at 9 minutes, by the way.
Okay. So artifact number 4 was our Civil War art exhibition. And this is probably one of the hardest projects I ever did in my life. So our silhouettes. Skills obtain leadership and artistic confidence. So for leadership, I was with Matt, and Honestly, Matt is probably one of the best partners I've ever had. But I ain't gonna lie, he gets distracted sometimes kind of easily. So I had to practice my leadership and kind of help him stay on task. Matt has a super good work ethic and everything, but sometimes he can get a little distracted. But if anything, it was a good opportunity for me to kind of step up and help him stay on task, and we could complete our silhouettes. For artistic confidence, I am no artist at all. If any of you know me, I avoid art as much as I can because I'm just not a very confident artist. So during this project, it was pretty much based around silhouettes and art and Carol Walker and all that good stuff. So I had to kind of step up as an artist and kind of, have the mindset that I could make something very nice. So my book relationship, Michael was the person his group counted on and looked to when they were in a bad spot. He had to put his feelings aside and lead his group. So, when in the book, he's obviously very upset because they have his mother. So he was in a bad spot. His friends were all counting on him to make a plan and keep them safe at the same time. And he was kind of the person that they all looked to. So I felt like I could definitely relate to him in that sense because of the leadership. For the second one, Michael needed to have confidence in himself and everything that he did. So I talked about how my artistic confidence wasn't the highest in the world, and I needed to kind of step up that technique when I was doing this project. And Michael also needed to do that because he was kind of the decision maker as well as the leader. So that kind of forced him to make decisions confidently and do the best he could for his group. Alright, so my last artifact number 5, was building our electric bikes. This is my group here, Matt, Aaron, me, and Patrick. So, So bikes. The skills I have obtained so far, since we haven't finished this project yet, are bike mechanics and teamwork. Bike mechanics kind of obvious. We went to K-Bike to learn about that, as you all know. And these were some of the things that I really didn't know before, just because I had always ridden bikes and stuff, but I never really took it apart or worked on chains or anything like that. So those were really enhanced during this project so far, and definitely more to come. And then teamwork, because when we were actually at K-Vibe, it required all of us to, always be working, not be distracted. Some people needed to take pictures, some people needed to work on the bike, some people needed to do all kinds of stuff. So we really needed to work as a team, have the same goal together, and get things done. So my final book relationship was when Michael was about to head off on his journey. He had basically car problems. He needed to drive all the way to Las Vegas, and he needed to fix them quickly, so I kind of related the mechanic side. Well, of course, he's working on a car, but we're working on bikes, and I figured that was pretty similar, so I figured we can make that relationship. And number 2, Michael couldn't function without his team. Without his team and them sacrificing basically all their time to him, they wouldn't have been able to rescue his mom. Okay, so in conclusion, this semester has been really great. I have had a lot of fun as well as learned a lot of new skills, as you saw. And yeah, thank you for watching.
I'm afraid you don't have time